All all right, guys. So today we're reviewing, right? Because everybody forgot everything I ever taught them before we left for break, and that's all this is. We've done these problems before. What's the greatest possible integral value of x for which the square root of x minus 7 is imaginary? What does it mean to be imaginary? Go. Yeah, for it to be a negative square root. So basically, for stuff to be imaginary, the stuff underneath the square root, it's got to be less than 0. Can we solve that? Of course you can. So we just add 7 to each side, and so basically x has got to be less than 7. Which is the biggest number up there that's less than 7? Woo, that was easy. All right, guys, so we got to find the solution. I've taught you a bunch of different ways to find the solution. Give me one way we could possibly find a solution. Oh, completing the square will do it. Raise your hand in here if you like completing the square. Of course that. Only like, it's like a small fraction of the population. Give me another way to solve this problem besides completing the square, Cameron. With the calculator, okay. I'll agree with that, but that's really not going to, it's probably not going to give us our answer in a plus bi form because that's a messy answer, Selena. Quadratic formula, in fact, that's the way that most people tend to solve these types of problems. So let's do quadratic formula, right? Quadratic formula, we got to fill it out. So that's a is the number in front of x squared, b is 6, and c is going to be 11. And then we're going to do quadratic formula. My mom used to sing me this before I went to bed every night. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Makes me all sleepy. Makes me all sleepy. I love that. Let's do this. Now we're just going to plug in. All right, so we plugged in. And so let's talk about this. This all right now, if this is a 4-point problem, this all is worth 1 point. Okay? 1 point. Actually, not yet 1 point because we have to simplify stuff underneath the square root. Guys, people keep making this mistake. Do you simplify that by hand in your mind or with your calculadora? With the calculadora. All right, so we're going to plug this in. What I mean is we're going to plug in what's underneath the square root. So we got x equals, obviously, negative 6, 2, plus or minus. Now, here's where people screw this up. Don't do the stuff underneath the square root in your head. Use your calculadoras. Let's hide this thing because that's annoying. And let's do negative 6 squared, or 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 11. Close that up. Ah, negative 8. Nice. Is that what you guys got? Nice. All right. And now here we go. Down the rabbit hole we go. Let me explain. That is worth, I think that might be worth 2 points. 2 points. 1 point for listing all this stuff out and writing the quadratic formula down right, and then 1 point for plugging everything in and getting to this step. So that's 2 points right there. Right there. And now we're going to simplify, right? Negative 6 plus or minus. Now this comes out and becomes an I. Right? Right? Okay? Now we got to keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. Keep going. I love that song. Yep. 2i radical 2 over 2. No, it's an older song. Okay. And then here we go. Here we go. Right? Are we done? Let me get a hell no. Of course not. You're not done because now we can reduce. This goes into itself once. This goes into itself once. This goes into itself. 2 goes into 6 3 times. So that our final answer is x equals negative 3 plus or minus I square root of 2. You could also say 1i if you really want to. And that's our final answer. Final answer. So let's talk about this. 1 point for the stuff in black. 1 point for the stuff in red. Okay. 1 point, 3 points if you could get to this step, and then the fourth and final point for the stuff in blue. Okay, number 12. Somebody asked about the number 12. Actually, it was Amanda, the most amazing person alive ever, right? Guys, well, let's talk about some vocab up in here. Multiplicative inverse. Let me give you an example of the multiplicative inverse of just a normal number. You know what the multiplicative inverse of 5 is? It's 1/5. You know what the multiplicative inverse of 10 is? 1 divided by 10. By definition, the multiplicative inverse is the number that you multiply the original to get 1. That probably made no sense to people, but tell me what's the multiplicative inverse of 4 plus I? You guys are rock stars. You know that? But now there is a problem. There is a problem. Hill? Do you see the problem? What's the problem? Can't have I in the denominator. Hill, how do we take care of that? Multiply by the conjugate. Right? And so now we multiply the tops. That's 4 minus I. And then we got to multiply by the bottoms. Do we multiply this by hand or do we use our calculadoras? Of course. Of course, some people like doing it the long way. No? First thing we got to do is make sure our calculator's in the right mode. Mine's not in the right mode. You see, mine's in real mode. It's got to be in A plus BI mode. Oh, you hit the mode button. Hit the mode button if you want to get to this screen. Make sure it's in A plus BI mode. And then we're going to do 4 plus. Everybody knows where the I button is. It's way down here on the decimal. And then it's going to be 4 minus I. And that's amazing because you know what happens? The bottom turns out to be 17. Which answer is it? D. Guys, numero dos. For those of you that speak Espanol. Guys, what do we do? There's a negative underneath the radical. What do you do? Pull it out. Yeah, that's worth 1 point. This is a 2-point question. That's worth 1 point. And then we got to break down square root 128. 16 and 8 will work, but Henry said something that's larger. 64 and 2. And so final answer is just 8I square root of 2. So you get 1 point for doing this, and then you got to get to the answer. And so we're on numero ocho. Of course. Now we're going to use our calculadoras. 1 minus I squared. Negative 2I. That's it. Do you want to see how to do it the long way? Come on, let's. Yeah. Oh my God, I love doing this. My favorite. When I couldn't sleep last night, I was just trying to do math like this in my head. We're going to do number 6 in a minute. Hold on 1 second. If you were to do this one out the long way, then the squared means that there's 2 of them, and so you got to multiply. You got to FOIL, right? FOIL it up. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Guys. What's I squared? Who remembers? Negative 1. Oh, yeah. Right, Selena? Exactly.
How can I have that? Wait, what was it?
I messed up. Oh, I made a mistake. This one, I made a mistake when I was foiling, in that negative I times I should have been that. And so this answer over here should have been, whoops, I made a mistake. My bad. Guys, we're on number 6, numero 6. How do we do this? We're going to enter it into our calculator. We hit the math button, and then we scroll over to num. What does num stand for? Yeah, kinds of numbers. And then we're going to go into the I part. The reason I'm choosing the I part is because I have I to the 8th. And you just type this in, 2 second I raised to the 8th. And you don't have to do any work. Oh my gosh. Great question about number 5. Number 5 is actually could be a short answer question if there wasn't multiple choice there. Let me show you why. Check it out. Your calculator is basically rendered useless. Not useless, but well, it's not going to give you the answer perfectly like you'd want it. Right? You get some decimal answer. Now, if you're real smart and crafty, you can still use your calculator to cheat your way through this question. How would you do something like that? Go. All you got to do is enter in the other answers and compare them. The one that matches is the answer. If 2 match, always choose the one with the smaller number underneath the square root. Like, let's take a look if it's the first one. Oh, it is the first one, right? Because the first one matches. Is it choice B? Of course it's not choice B. Is it choice C? No, because that would be the negative version of what we just entered. And what about choice C? Choice D, I mean. It could be. I mean, let's take a look. Negative 10. I mean, there is, but it doesn't work, right? So that's how to choose the answer using your calculator. But suppose this was a short answer question. How would you attack it? Well, you'd do the following, right? You write it down. And then what's step 1 whenever you have negatives underneath the square root? Lou? What's step 1 when you have stuff underneath the square root? Negatives, I'm sorry. Yeah. Anytime you got a negative underneath the square root, you take out the negative and you put an I. So we get I square root 18 minus I square root 8. And then what do? You reduce. You reduce. Right? Square root. Hold on one second. Not unless they match perfectly. It's a great question. Like I'll show you. So you have 3I square root 2 minus 2I square root 2. And unless you have this, you can't do anything. They're not like terms. But these two are like terms. And so what's the answer in the end? Just I radical 2. Or 1I radical 2 is the same thing. So 13 you can do real sneakily. Watch this one. We're going to type this into our calculator. 5 divided by, you got to put this in parentheses because we want everything in the bottom to be down there. Then you hit enter and you get that. I showed you before. How do you convert that to a fraction? Math. So which one is it? The calculator is reporting back that the answer is 4/5 minus 3/5 I. And that is the same thing as saying 4 minus 3I over 5. So it's this one. So being able to know how to read your calculator, uber important. Number 10, the additive inverse. Let me give you an example of a number and its additive inverse. You know what the additive inverse of 6 is? Negative 6. You know what the additive inverse of 15 is? The additive of it's negative 15. The additive inverse is the number which, when added to the original, makes 0. So what, when added to this, makes 0? Negative? Yeah, negative 3 plus 4i.